Um, Rob, at the end of a series now, and there's a triangular, I know, still coming somewhere down the line. But if you were to take the group as it is now and compare it to the team as it was just before the World Cup last year, and I know Quinny's gone, but where would you say the differences lie between what the team was at that point, just before going to India, and where the team is at this moment with very few games to go before Champions Trophy?
Look, I think the one probably standout difference was the 5 games against Australia. We had a really strong prep, good competition. The whole squad was involved there, and obviously walked away with that series victory 3-2. So played some really good cricket and got some nice momentum from that, and then had a really good prep in Trivandrum prior to the start of the series. So as much as there are similar faces, there's also some faces that are not here. And so we're not at full strength, but at the end of the day, as I keep saying, it's not only about that. It was great to see a debutant perform so well today in a Corbin Bosch. Heinrich Klaassen kept playing well. But yeah, I mean, to go back to your point, is that 5 match series made a significant difference to us in the lead up to a World Cup, no doubt about that. Kind of felt like we were probably starting to gain a little bit this evening, albeit we made a few of the similar errors throughout the series. But yeah, I mean, for some guys, this is their first 50 over series since the World Cup, and so there's a bit of crossover in formats that you need to work through the nuances of the game. So yeah, I mean, I hope that sort of answers it.
The concerns, though, seem elevated, obviously, because of the nature of these defeats, in that there is a long time before Champions Trophy, but you're not going to have the players for a lot of that time.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you kind of get around that and try and get it back to a point where it may not be what it was just before India, but it is as close as you can get it. How do you do that?
Yeah, look, I mean, the reality is the lead up into the Champions Trophy won't be anything like the lead up to the World Cup. And that's the reality of the way the schedule is stacked up. But at the end of the day, I just got to trust in the quality of the players. I know they'll shine through when it comes to the world events, these marquee events. The guys tend to step up. They tend to bring their best cricket. We've seen that two World Cups in a row. The T20 World Cup, to be fair, we were all together just 2 days before the first game. So I think the guys have an understanding of it. Obviously, the switching in codes will potentially pose a little bit of a challenge to us. But again, I mean, it's not like the guys have not played 50 over cricket. So I trust that when the time comes, they'll be there.
Rob, if I could just perhaps hone in on this series, do you mind just summarizing your thoughts on the 3 matches that you've just played? And it's also your first series whitewash that I noticed. Is that something to read into?
I mean, not that you now have made me aware of it, but so, no. To be honest, the whitewash is less of a concern, just rather delving into the actual performances of the team. As I said, in the last answer, I think that probably the disappointing part was we kind of made the same errors, specifically with the bat. If we look at all 3 games, we were ahead of the rate throughout, but behind in terms of wickets lost. Some of the options that we took at specific times in the game could have been better. And tonight was exactly the same as the other evening. So all things being equal, if we had age-old partnerships put together, if we had one of our batters go and score 100 or beyond, the results probably would have been different, at least on 2 of the occasions. We had very much the best of the conditions this evening. Unfortunately, we didn't use them well enough for the ball, and so we can lament these little things that we haven't done well in different phases of the game. And then obviously there are things that we actually have done well, where we've stood up and excelled in certain areas. And obviously Heinrich Klaassen stands out as a guy. He's had an amazing series with the bat. Guys who've come in and had debuts and done nicely. So I think we sum it up by saying we've made similar errors through the 3 games, and guys who are experienced cricketers who essentially would want to be better than that.
These bilaterals, obviously, we spoke about winning the T20 first bilateral win. A lot of people read into these series and sort of it gives them optimism or pessimism, depending on which side they look at it from. How do you see it? And you touched on the fact that the Champions Trophies. The guy, you back the guys to step up when it matters. Is that how you see it as well? Like it matters more to step up when you're actually playing for a trophy or for some silverware, which is something the Proteas have lacked, obviously.
No, I mean, I think the players are certainly always proud to play for their country and obviously always trying to put their best foot forward. I think what happens when you come to world events is most of the time, and obviously other than injury, you're going to have your best squad there assembled together to compete in that tournament. So, from an optimism point of view, I think I'm naturally optimistic, so I'll continue in that vein. Um, and history says that that when the time comes, our players will step up, and I back that. I trust them fully. In between now and then, what's there for us to do is just purely have real quality conversations around what we could have done better, what we need to have in place in terms of playing in Pakistan, I assume. And so when the time comes to be ready for that, and obviously in between now and then is a diet of T20 cricket and 2 test matches. So first we as a Proteas family, we focus in on these test matches and getting ourselves to that World Test Championship final. And then obviously all the lads will pretty much be involved in the SA20, so which will be highly competitive cricket, albeit in a different format. And so I'm optimistic that when the time comes, we'll pull together.
Just on one specific area, the top order batting, I think I counted it up. It was four scores of 30 among those top 3 across the series. I know the short turnaround between games, but we would have had some debriefs and chats with guys. What are they kind of saying about, especially those top 3, about jumping from the 30s, because in 50 over game 30s is going to do nothing for you, to get to a point where they're actually providing the foundation that you're going to need for a big innings. What are they saying? Where do they recognize the issue as being?
Yeah, the conversations have been fairly consistent. Like as a batting unit, we've spoken about someone taking pride in getting in and getting a big 100, converting the start. So it's not. I mean, whatever you'd expect to hear in those conversations are certainly happening, and we just. To be fair, I mean, we just haven't been able to convert anything into really substantial knocks or partnerships in this series, So it's not like we're unaware. I mean, the games turn around very quickly, and you're back in the in the hustle of it again. And some of it is down to batting error, and others down to bowling quality, And we also have to acknowledge that, I think even if you look at Tony Desor's knock today, I mean, he was batting beautifully, and then he got a brute of a ball that gets him out. At the end of the day, how do you assess that, and what conversations do you have? I just want him to continue to look to play like he was playing, because he was putting our noses in front up until that point. So these things do happen, and ultimately I think it's important to know that the players themselves want to be better. They want to convert. They want to get big hundreds. It's not through any lack of want, And again, I have to trust that conversion will start happening, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
How difficult is it to, obviously sports is a game of emotion, cricket like any other sport. When guys don't perform, you need to critique where you need to critique. But how difficult is it when you're the white ball coach and a lot of the guys in this team are playing in the red ball series, and you don't want to break their confidence? How do you sort of handle or balance the need to critique guys and tell them where they need to improve, but also not break their confidence, obviously going into this must-win test series now as well?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think there's a huge need for critique, because ultimately the game is judging you and telling you whether you've done well enough or you haven't, So, I mean, it doesn't need for me to come and tell you. I think what's important is the conversations around how do we improve, what are the strengths, what did they do well, because it's not like we did nothing well, So it's what have we done well, and what are the areas we need to touch up on that will be part of a development plan for a player, And players want to get better. They want to be able to dominate the game. They want to be able to put their noses in front of the opposition and stand up in big occasions and deliver match-winning performances. That's what they want to do, So having a conversation around what that might look like is not a tough one to have. I think, as I said, I think the players are all after the same thing, and that's to be better, to play great cricket for South Africa, and to win games of cricket for South Africa. And you don't do that unless you, as batters, convert, as bowlers, nail your execution, and as fielders, do that little bit of brilliance or convert the opportunities that you get in the field. So, we're continually on that path. And so, as you know, in your question, it's not around critique. It's just really about an honest evaluation of the things that we've done well and the areas we need to improve on.
I think you mentioned before the series, with the end of the T20s, that you would like to give some momentum from one series to another into the next. This being a clean sweep and there being the kind of issues that there have been, are you concerned that you've maybe taken some of the momentum away from the test team a couple of days before Boxing Day?
Shivers. Well, I'm hoping that the test side will do well, and I certainly hope I haven't taken anything away from them. Again, maybe the different format, you know, is what is needed, you know, and the guys can fall back on the positive successes that they've had, which is not 3 months ago, it's just a couple of weeks ago, really, from a test match point of view, and potentially the possibility of a World Test Championship final will bring the guys together, galvanize them, and lift them again. So I've got no doubt about that, and certainly hope that they'll find their momentum soon enough.
With this break, just to summarize the summer now, you know, what are some of the positives that stood out for you as well, especially with introducing quite a number of debutants as well?
I think that is obviously one of the key positives, is that we've given some debuts to some exciting young cricketers, some others that have been in the system for a while, and in most cases the guys have actually come and played and stepped up, which has been great to see. As a collective, we probably haven't delivered as well as we should have. And obviously in the T20 series itself, we saw that the senior players stood up and delivered, specifically with the bat match-winning performances, and we won that series. So, but I suppose the main positive for me was the T20 series against Pakistan. We played our brand, you know, specifically with the bat. And beyond that was just broadening our base and seeing some of the guys come in and thrive at international competition. And even those that didn't do as well as they wanted to, it gave us a good lens as to the areas that they need to improve on. They've got a good taste of quality international cricket. They understand what is required of them. Doesn't make them any lesser players. It just gives them a good read as to where they need to sharpen up on, where they need to get their games to in order to come back in and dominate when they get their next opportunity. So there'll always be positives, you know, as much as there's, you know, it really is rubbish and feels it hurts a lot to lose. There's always positives along the way, especially when you're giving opportunities to younger guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.